and damage of the past, and only then lay down the foundation for future growth. It is a roadmap for recovery, not a gift basket. The Prime Minister has been clear. The real benefit, the relief, and the opportunities will begin to ease in over the next 3 years. But to reach that point, we must first make the necessary sacrifices today. This is not a budget of empty promises. It addresses real structural challenges that have been ignored for too long. Innovation, new incentive and funding for R&D, digitalization, and technology-driven sectors to shift us from a consumption-led to a production-led economy. Labor market reform, target training program, reskill initiatives, and work permit policies aim at both empowering local and meeting real sectorial demand. Aging population reforms in healthcare, pension, and community support system to ensure dignity, care, and social cohesion as our demographic shift. These are the bold measures that we have decided to adopt to steer Mauritius' economy direction. Now let me come to issues that are utmost important in my portfolio for youth and sports. I have repeatedly stated, and I will not go back on my words. When I assumed office, I was faced with an abysmal situation. Wherever I turned, whichever sector I addressed, major issues were waiting. It was not just inefficiency, it was systemic decay. What struck me most was the rampant abuse of government and public assets. These assets meant to serve our youth and local communities were being diverted for private use, often with the complicity of certain public officers. This was not negligence, it was a betrayal of public trust. Madam Speaker, there has been daylight robbery, pillage de fonds publics, carrément du vol. MSM is used with a kitchen cabinet giving orders. So in the Ministry of Youth and Sport, there was also la cuisine from where orders were being issued. Private dinners and even birthday parties were celebrated in Pointe Jérôme. I was told that some people, you know who, treated Pointe Jérôme as their primary resident. I have already ordered a full and independent investigation by the Office of the Public Sector Governance. And let me be clear, the more we dig, the more we are uncovered. This is only the beginning. I will not hesitate to take the necessary and decisive action. We owe it to the people, especially to the youth, to clear up the system and ensure that public resources serve the public goods, not private interests. We are working hand in hand with residents of different regions of the country, breaking down stigmas and creating a new sense of ownership and hope. With the commitment and determination that define our action, we will confront drug addiction and its proliferation head-on, and we will succeed, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there is a growing sense of disconnection between the youth of Mauritius and the Ministry of Youth and Sport, fueled by perceptions of outdated programs, limited engagement, and a lack of meaningful opportunities for participation and expression. Many young people feel that their voices are not being heard, and that initiatives often fail to reflect their real needs, aspirations, and evolving lifestyle. This disconnect has led to apathy, reduced involvement in public youth initiatives, and a widening gap between policy and reality. Rebuilding trust and relevance required the ministry to adopt a more inclusive, innovative, and a youth-driven approach rooted in genuine dialogue and co-creation. Madam Speaker, in the field of sports, we know that there is a form of mafia-like control manifesting through fictitious clubs and questionable federations. These entities are often created solely to access public funding, manipulate elections, and secure influence, rather than to genuinely promote sport or support athletes. I also noted that the ministry suffers from the absence of a clear, coherent, and a long-term action plan for both youth development and sport. There is no strategic direction. Initiatives taken are often fragmented, reactive, and disconnected from the real challenges faced by young people and athletes. As regards infrastructure, both for youth and sports, the landscape is alarming. Many facilities are in a state of neglect, under-maintained, as far below international standards. If urgent action is not taken, the country may soon face the embarrassment of having to host its international football matches on foreign soil. The state of abandonment is mind-blowing, reflecting years of poor planning, lack of investment, and absence of a maintenance culture. These are only some of the problems which I have highlighted. There are many more. Madam Speaker, let me elaborate on some of the measures that have been included in this budget. The establishment of 7 sport academies under the aegis of the Mauritius Multi-Sport Infrastructure Limited. It is undeniable that the progress of sport and access to continental and global elite levels require the creation of centers of excellence in various sport disciplines. It is with this in mind that the Ministry supported a project approved by the Ministry of Finance within the framework of this fiscal year. Among the disciplines involved is football, whose National Academy will replace the Liverpool International Academy. We have taken the time necessary to clearly explain the direction we are taking post-Liverpool Academy. We have held press conference, engaged with stakeholders, and brought in world-renowned football expert, Mr. François Blacard, to guide us. Parents and its staff have been reassured. As far as we are concerned, our vision is crystal clear. For those who refuse to see the daylight, I can only express regret. We are moving ahead with the establishment of 7 academies under the MMIL, with the groundwork for the remaining 6 soon to begin. The National Football Academy is already operational. It's now a matter of fine-tuning. The head coach educator will arrive shortly, with the recruitment process already underway. We are putting in place a solid, transparent structure to ensure that no minister or incoming federation president can interfere and derail the project. We've witnessed this too many times before, most notably with the CNFF, and I am determined not to allow history to repeat itself. Madam Speaker, in the context of the 2025-26 fiscal year, an allocation of 134 million rupees is planned for the renovation of several sport infrastructure, including Stade Josac, Anjali Kupen Stadium, and others. The goal is to obtain FIFA certification for Stade Josac and Anjali Kupen. Additionally, an amount of 40 million rupees will be made available to the Mauritius Multi-Sport Infrastructure Limited for the maintenance and modernization of its infrastructures. An envelope of 46 million is planned for athlete assistance through the allowance to high-level athletes program and the Trust Fund for Excellence in Sports. For retired athletes, an amount of 5 million is planned to cover the monthly pension for each athlete. Assistance to Federation amounts to 60 million, while football club is received aid of 15.4 million rupees for this fiscal year. An amount of 6 million is planned over 2 fiscal years for a feasibility study on the construction of a rally circuit. This project, dear to many enthusiasts of sport, is beginning to take shape and will soon become a reality. The ministry is already tackling this task. This project will offer motor sport enthusiasts the opportunity to practice the discipline safely and with all the requirement amenities. At long last, we will put an end to the tragic stories of unfortunate accidents across the country, where young people simply trying to practice their sport with passion and hope have found themselves injured due to unsafe, inadequate, or non-existent facilities. An amount of 50 million is planned to cover the participation of our athletes in various regional, continental, and even global games. These games include the CGSOE Games, the COSAFA Cup, as well as preparation for the Francophonie Games. Provisions have been made for the organization of the National Sport Awards, which unfortunately did not take place last year due to lack of funds. A new development to note, the introduction of the National School Sport Award, which is part of the logic of reviving inter-college competition. An amount of 146 million is planned for the Mauritius Sports Council to cover its activities, including the maintenance of Muga. Madam Speaker, we are laying the foundation of a new sporting era in Mauritius. Other key initiatives are as follows. A new Mauritius Sport Promotion Division will drive grassroots participation under inclusive banner Sport pour tout le monde. The revival of the Jeux intercollege will foster a sporting culture in school, identify talents, and promote physical fitness and health. Preliminaries for the present edition began in April. Final will be held from 14 to 18 July at Côte d'Or and other national venues. A residential sport camp will be launched for young athletes, including those with disabilities, focusing on performance, wellness, and social bonding. The Combat Art Festival Indoor and the Sport Games and Kids in Action initiative targeting 8 to 13 years old in school will further broaden participation and awareness. A high-performance sport program is being launched with sights set firmly on the Los Angeles 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Major international events will be hosted to position Mauritius as a premier sporting destination. Our high-performance center at Côte d'Or continues to serve 131 elite athletes, including 15 para-athletes with cutting-edge training, sports science, and recovery services. Madam Speaker, I would also like to elaborate on some of the non-financial measures that we are busy putting into place. These measures are successfully implemented, will have lasting impact on the youth and sport landscape in the country. The new Sport Act is already at the drafting stage and will soon be introduced into the National Assembly. I want to assure the House that we are not merely amending old laws, we are laying the foundation for a modern, forward-looking legislative framework that will address long-standing structural problems in our sports ecosystem. One of the most damaging issues we intend to tackle head-on is the proliferation of fictitious club and federation. This is not just about laws, it's about restoring trust, ensuring fairness, and empowering our youth through sport. Mauritius is home not only to those who live in the island, but also to a vibrant and talented diaspora scattered across the globe. Many of these individuals, whether born abroad to Mauritian parents or having migrated to a young age, possess exceptional athletic talent, world-class training, and invaluable experience from competing in high-performance environment. It is time we formally open the door to these athletes through a clear, transparent, and fair naturalization and eligibility framework to represent our national colors on the international stage. This is not just a sporting decision. It is a statement of national unity. It is an acknowledgement of being Mauritian is not defined solely by geography, but by identity, heritage, and heart. By integrating diaspora athletes into our nation teams, we aim to strengthen the performance capacity of our teams with proven experienced athletes, create a powerful link between Mauritius and its global diaspora, foster knowledge transfer as these athletes can help mentor and raise the level of local talent, and above all, showcase to the world a Mauritius that is global, ambitious, and proud. A clear policy and selection criteria will ensure that this process maintains integrity, meritocracy, and fairness, and that is its work in synergy with our local athlete development effort. In embracing our diaspora, we are not replacing, we are reinforcing, we are not imposing success, we are reclaiming it. Mauritius belongs to all Mauritians, wherever they may be. The policy is not about privilege, it's about equity, recognition, and long-term vision. Mauritius must reward excellence, not just on the podium, but also in life beyond the game. Our athletes have carried the flag with honor. It is now our turn as a nation to honor them with opportunity, dignity, and a future. Under the renewed vision of the Ministry of Sport, the Mauritius Sport Council and affiliated entities are being repositioned to play more strategic and complementary roles in the nation's sport ecosystem. The MSC will focus on the development of coordination of community sport and infrastructure management, while the Trust for Excellence in Sport will drive elite athletes, develop high-performance program. The National Côte d'Or Complex will operate as a center of excellence for training, events, and sport science. The Commission Nationale des Sports Féminins will strengthen efforts to promote and empower women in sport, and the National Council for Sport in schools and universities will spearhead the integration of sport into the education system, nurturing talents from an early age and fostering a culture of physical activity and excellence across academic institutions. Madam Speaker, before I conclude, let me highlight some of our recent achievements. In the field of sports, these milestones are not just events. They are powerful indicators of the fresh mindset now driving our sports community, freed from unnecessary constraint and interference of our athlete coaches, federation are being to thrive. They are performing with renewed confidence, pride, and purpose, and the results speak for themselves. This is the spirit we are nurturing, a dynamic, liberated sporting environment where excellence is not only encouraged, but made possible. At the WACU African Continental Kickboxing Championship in South Africa in December 2024, our junior won 3 golds and 2 silver, while our seniors dominated with 7 golds, 4 silver and 1 bronze. In February 2025, our national badminton team secured 2 silver and 2 bronze medals at the All Africa Badminton Championship in Cameroon. Our para athletes shone brightly on the global stage, winning 5 gold and 5 silver in Sharjah, and 3 gold, 8 silver and 2 bronze in Dubai and the World Para Athletics Grand Prix. This victory reflects not only personal commitment, but also national investment in inclusion and excellence. I would also like to highlight the outstanding achievement of 2 of our athletes who have brought immense pride to Mauritius. Firstly, Kimberly Lecourt-Pinard recently made history as the first Mauritian cyclist and the first African female rider to win the prestigious UCI Human World Road Race Tour calendar. Secondly, Jeremy Lara Rodeuse has emerged as Africa's top 110 meters hurdle, having broken the national record twice last week in France. Madam Speaker, this budget has made a genuine attempt to lay the foundation of a better future through a bold set of measures aimed at correcting the failing of the past. Amex expressed a serious concern in the wake of some necessary through controversial reform. Certain deadwood have attempted to resurface. Yes, Banlera MSM have tried to creep back into relevance, but no matter how loud the shout, how desperate the try, history has already named them for what they are, Diwali's party. They have plundered this nation so shamelessly that they ought to be embarrassed to even show their face in public. The scale of looting was staggering that I found myself tempted to turn to the Honorable Prime Minister or the Attorney General and ask if there are no laws that allow us to recover what they have stolen from the people. And if such a law does not exist, then perhaps it's time we consider enacting one. The people deserve justice, not promises. Madam Speaker, I would now like to address myself to the Mauritian population and tell them, listen to this carefully. In November 2024, you made a wise and courageous choice before you stood 2 true patriots, the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister, and our team. The current Prime Minister and his deputy, both of whom have already served this country as Prime Minister in their own right. Your decision was not a mistake. You placed trust in them and assure you that trust will never be betrayed. They are not acting for popularity or political gain. They are making tough, sometimes painful decisions, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary for the future of our nation. They are responsible leaders, committed to steering this country in the right direction, even when the path is steep. Je vous demande de la patience. Les résultats viendront. Les sacrifices consentis aujourd'hui ouvrent la voie à l'avenir meilleur. Et à la jeunesse de ce pays, nous, Banzen, en tant que ministre, je vous le dis avec conviction, tout ce que nous construisons aujourd'hui est pour vous. Les opportunités, les réformes, les investissements, tout cela est pour votre avenir. Et c'est vous qui allez récolter demain les fruits de ce que nous sémons aujourd'hui. Nous pouvons construire une République Maurice qui pointe la case pour tout. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Yes, Ms. Danu.
Madam Speaker, the past few days have been very eventful. We have been lynched, we have been shamed, we have been attacked constantly in the media. But what we call upon the people is to think, to come together, to discuss, to negotiate, to debate, and to constructively contribute to the ongoing task of rebuilding the nation. What we have lived through the past 10 years has been chaos. One term that has been repeated again and again is the term neoliberalism. Indeed, neoliberalism is chaos. It is a dominant system that Naomi Klein has described as disaster capitalism. And disaster capitalism only instills chaos, despair, destruction. Our dear friends, the Honourable Mr. Otim and the Honourable Mr. Suivez clearly underline the chaos that we inherited. I need not go into details. But what I want people to remember is what neoliberalism is, really. It gives rise to consumers, according to Chomsky. It erects shopping malls instead of building communities. It seeks to impose individualism, whereby the self is isolated and disconnected from his or her social environment. Neoliberalism, in effect, destroys social ties. It destroys empathy and reduces the self to social powerlessness. Its primary aim is to reduce the government's role in economic planning. It promotes the privatization of government entities and reduces its expenditure. According to Huffman, neoliberal economics is notorious for lowering taxes in all categories, while upholding the discourse of austerity. Now, is this what we're doing? When we heard about the panoply of taxes being imposed on the elites. From the UK model of austerity that has been imposed in recent years, what we retain is the suffering of the people. Pain and misery were extensively inflicted when the welfare state was dismantled. The disabled were starved to death in the fifth richest country of the world. And this is precisely what we're not doing. Madam Speaker, we share the pain of our people. We share the anxiety of thousands of workers waiting to retire from exploitative workplaces. We empathize with every employee who suffers from both psychological and physical strain imposed in the workplace. We therefore welcome the setting up of key committees that will work towards the implementation of a strong policy to enable dignified and decent support to be provided to employees who can qualify as people without the ability to work. This is the difference that we make when we discuss, when we debate, when we negotiate. We learn and we progress. Life matters, Madam Speaker, and we will continue to fight for the 40 hours work week and improved work conditions for all, so that retirement age does not become a matter that is so sensitive in this island, particularly because we still bear the legacy of colonialism in our veins. The major outcry against this budget has understandably silenced major tax reforms that are precisely aimed at forging social justice. As noted previously, we have a new policy on the smart cities. This shows that the government has concertedly assessed ways in which big capital preys on our territory and barely pays any cent on land conversion or any other tax related to property development under the smart city scheme. Now, this type of tax that targets the elite is precisely what neoliberalism condemns. Here, we're challenging neoliberal economics and focusing on enhancing public revenue. The taxes targeted towards categories of wealth, indicates further measures to ensure that the public coffers are filled, because now, as has been underlined before, they're empty. Indeed, Madam Speaker, the budget contains important measures that will make a strong difference to our lives in our community and build the social ties that neoliberalism seeks to destroy. May I begin with the key measure to digitalize the social security services. This measure indicates that the budget has taken into account a severe impediment to the lives of the most needy and the most vulnerable. With thousands of files awaiting processing, the procedures for the most needy to access his or her pension were severely hindered, resulting in distress, distrust, and despair. With digitalization, we can look forward to more fair and just processes based on clarity and transparency. Similarly, the digitalization of the health sector is a fundamental requirement for our society to move forward with a social conscience, with empathy, care, and consideration. It is inconceivable that the island was once earmarked as a cyber hub. Yet, the health sector has remained notorious for the amount of paperwork being undertaken by trained nurses sitting in offices while the sickly despairs for professional care. The digitalization of both sectors, as announced within this budget, reflects this government's determination to improve the lives of the most fragile members of our community. Thus, neoliberalism that seeks to dismantle the welfare sector is being challenged. In the past, we need to remember, neoliberalism dictated the dysfunctionality that was built in the public systems through the consistent lack of investment. Now, with digitalization, we are investing in efficient running of both the health and social security sectors. This government is tackling heads-on two major challenges that impact on the lives of many beneficiaries and employees alike. A responsible government indeed seeks to alleviate hassle, pain, and the drudgery of thousands. Madam Speaker, this budget speaks to us ecofeminists, who have long denounced the manner in which capitalism exploits women's bodies in the workplace and at home. Care work is work undertaken mostly by women in the home when they raise their families and look after the elderly. Through care work, women primarily contribute to social reproduction, without which society cannot survive. Care work guarantees that as a community, we thrive, and that we can look forward to a future with healthy and functional human beings. However, across Mauritian history, and especially with the advent of the manufacturing sector, women's work in the home has been consistently exploited. In the contemporary context, women are exploited in the workplace and at home, while contributing millions to the GDP. The finance sphere is a key example, where women often have to sacrifice their careers for lesser paid roles. With emphasis placed on flexible work arrangements, this budget demonstrates a gender-sensitive approach. Let us not forget how our work-life schedules have been based on the American capitalist model implemented in the 1950s that entrapped women in the domestic sphere. Women looked after the home while men worked. Now, women work long hours and look after the home, resulting in a crippling mental charge. Madam Speaker, this budget is gender-aware, gender-sensitive, and gender-conscious towards thousands of women working long hours, women who commute hours during heavy traffic on unreliable buses, and women who often have to sacrifice the career for their family lives or vice versa. The hybrid work model, when implemented effectively, will be a game changer. It promises better work-life balance, more job satisfaction, and higher engagement in the workplace. Importantly, the hybrid work model also enables work access to women with disabilities. And it promises safety from autocratic management models. We must also note, Madam Speaker, that research has identified how working from home enables women to be more present in the STEM fields. And we know STEM fields are notoriously male-dominant. We therefore applaud the promotion of the hybrid work model and call for employee-centered policies that will promote work-life balance while keeping surveillance at bay. Moreover, Madam Speaker, the budget has underlined key measures that will be taken to support women's entrepreneurship. We welcome the increased support and hope that they will be geared to as many women as possible, while ensuring that long-term support is provided. Similarly, with the Equity Fund, we expect long-term empowerment and certainly support when pitfalls or problems arise. This budget, Madam Speaker, also addresses our key challenges in the future, namely food security and the climate crisis. We hereby make a strong appeal envisaged by the Ministry of Agro-Industry, Food Security, Blue Economy and Fisheries that we need to invest in long-term sustainability that can only be achieved through the implementation of agroecology. Uganda's National Agroecology Strategy and India's zero-budget natural farming are models whereby state-driven national policies, legislation, and programs can revolutionize our agricultural sector towards proven long-term agroecological sustainability. Madam Speaker, I also want to underline the importance of the point-based license. Over the past years, we have seen how our roads have become spaces of sheer murder. My dear friend here was just telling me that she had witnessed a horrifying accident during the weekend where somebody's brain was actually blown to bits, and they had to wait 45 minutes for the ambulance services and the police services to come in. Our road culture is horrifying. It is scary for the elderly to step even on the road in front of their houses. The point-based license is a much needed, much welcome measure that was formally thrown away like the baby with the bathwater by the previous regime. It was so ridiculous. Now what we need with this point-based system is certainly a means to counter not only a terrible driving culture, but the common incidences of chauffeurs, of drivers actually driving under the influence of drugs. We do have, in my constituency, bus drivers actually flying by on the buses, causing a lot of endangerment, not only to the commuters, but to anybody on the road. So thank you for bringing back the point-based license. I will now conclude with two important measures that aim at shaping a safe and eco-centric future for us all. Emphasis made on renewable sources of energy denote the strong will of this government to protect the environment. Given the current energy crisis, developing our optimal capacity in solar, wind, and wave energy is an imperative. Energy diversification is a must, and we have the duty towards effectively equipping the marina with all support so that they can actually shift us away from the deadly use of coal and oil. We also have to be wary about biomass. We equally welcome the aim to develop the blue economy from a sustainable perspective. We felt reassured when the Prime Minister recently addressed the inclusion of the rights of nature in our Constitution at the United Nations Ocean Conference in Nice. This is indeed a powerful signal. We thank the Honourable Prime Minister and reiterate our appeal for our ocean to be protected, particularly against the spectre of blue washing. Saya de Mala, for example, is so fragile. Our friend, the ecologist Shama Sandoya, led one of our first protests there, first underwater protests, to show how fragile it is in this ocean, because the Indian Ocean is the fastest warming ocean in the entire world. So if we don't protect the ocean, our entire lives will be put at stake. So sustainable fishing has to be carefully implemented. Madam Speaker, we need to be wary, we need to be careful, because the neoliberals are out there. The predators are out there. Our struggle against neoliberalism is ongoing. We will never give up the fight. Thank you. With these words, I commend the bill to the House. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Kazan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today in this August Assembly to support the 2025-2026 national budget, fully aware and fully honest that we do so under the weight of an unsustainable economic situation with a public debt of 642 billion rupees, representing 90% of the GDP. Public deficit reaching a record of 9.8%. Rising cost of living, depreciating currency, and sluggish economic productivity have put immense pressure on the lives of our citizens. The country is under the threat of facing a downgrade in credit ratings from international agencies like Moody's, which would have a significant negative impact on our financial sectors. Madam Speaker, I firmly believe that this budget is a step in the right direction, not because it solves all our problems overnight, but because it lays a foundation for recovery, resilience, and reform. Let us be truthful. Our economic model has become strained. Over-reliance on imports, low industrial productivity, excessive recurrent spending have combined to create an unsustainable path. This budget, however, begins a structural correction. It does not offer populist comfort. It offers tough, necessary choices, such as rewriting development spending, overconsumption, and reining in non-essential expenditures across the public sector. The budget outlines measures to stabilize our macroeconomic fundamentals, such as gradual reduction of the fiscal deficit, debt restructuring, and revenue expansion through fair and efficient taxation. Not by burdening the poor, but by widening the base and sealing leaks. We are laying the foundation for a sustainable and resilient economy. Madam Speaker, the planning for investment of 128 billion rupees for the next 5 years to fund various infrastructures, ranging from housing to transport, water, wastewater, solid waste, and electricity, demonstrate this government's commitment to create jobs, improve current infrastructure, but also ensure that our citizens are provided with infrastructure facilities which are up to standard. The long overdue construction of the Rivière des Anguilles Dam, upgrading and rehabilitation of water treatment plants, and replacement of water pipes program can only improve the water distribution around the island. Madam Speaker, Ports are not merely physical entry and exit ports. They are the lifeblood of our trade economy and gateways to regional integration. For a country like ours, whose growth depends heavily on maritime trade, the efficiency of our ports directly affects our GDP, job creation, and investor confidence. Reason why I consider the decision of massive investment up to 5.4 billion rupees in our port infrastructure to expand the cruise jetty, acquisition of tugs, and expansion of the Mauritius container terminal reflect the vision of this government to accommodate more vessels and gain in competitive edge. The Cargo Handling Corporation will also be investing in equipment such as cranes, tractors, and trailers, so that Mauritius claims back its reputation of being one of the most efficient ports in the region and achieve our target of being a transshipment hub. With these investments, we will complete the expand container handling capacity at the Mauritius container terminal. These are not abstract investments. They translate directly into business for our local transporters and foster movement of goods for our SMEs and exporters. Madam Speaker, drug addiction is not just a health crisis. It is a security threat, an economic burden, and a moral emergency. It destroys lives, tears apart families, and erodes the future of our youth. Addiction is a disease, not a crime, and this budget recognizes that truth by prioritizing treatment and reintegration, not only punishment. We cannot afford to sit back. This budget sends the signals that we are ready to act decisively, compassionately, and strategically. Madam Speaker, nous pas juste promettre, nous dire et nous peut faire. The National Agency for Drug Control, with the aim of combating drug trafficking, is today reality. And to allow this agency to perform its duties and meet its objectives, an amount of 70 million rupees has been earmarked in this budget to support the operational setup of the agency must be outlined. Madam Speaker, a healthy population is not just a moral imperative. It is the foundation of a strong and productive economy. If we want sustainable growth, we must ensure that our people are healthy, cared for, and protected. Our health system is facing challenges and requires deep reform to respond to our population demand. First, we are facing a consequent increase in non-communicable diseases, aging population, and increasingly complex health threats. This budget enlightens the clear intentions of this government to improve the services within the health in public sector by making provision for creation of a new health care system that will prioritize prevention through healthy lifestyle campaign and robust NCT management. The allocation of additional resources in healthcare that will allow us to shift from a reactive hospital care to preventive and community-based care. More funding on education, early diagnosis, nutrition campaigns, and lifestyle support will save us billions in long-term treatment costs. We need to improve the services in regional hospitals to uplift the services for essential treatment. The digital health must no longer be treated as a luxury, but a necessity. This will eliminate paper health records, long queuing, first reducing waiting time, improve efficiency, and enhance transparency. I must also lay emphasis on the fact that this budget provides for the necessary equipment and staffing with the recruitment of 1,000 student nurses over the next 3 years, 50 trainee midwives, 50 medical health officers, and 30 specialists, among others, to cut the waiting time for treatment, which will be beneficial to all patients. It is also important to stress the fact that there is a need for better data collection and public health surveillance. Without accurate data, we cannot plan or act effectively. With this budget, we have an opportunity to modernize our healthcare system and adapt it to the exigencies of our citizens. Madam Speaker, education is the foundation of every successful nation. But higher education, universities, research institutions, technical and professional training is where that foundation becomes a launchpad for innovation, leadership, and sustainable growth. When we invest in higher education, we are not just building campuses, we are building futures. We're equipping our youth with the skills, knowledge, and confidence to meet the challenges of tomorrow, from digital transformation to climate change, from entrepreneurship to public health. By prioritizing higher education, we can reduce brain drain and retain top talent within our borders, drive innovation through research and development, create a skilled workforce that attracts foreign investment, and uplift the entire communities through knowledge and opportunity. Let us also support the project to invest in high-quality education. Madam Speaker, we live in a digital age where convenience, transparency, and efficiency are not luxuries. They are expectations. Yet, our current social security systems are often plagued by delays and outdated processes that frustrate our citizens. The e-social security system represents a long-term solution to all beneficiaries. First, it brings efficiency and accessibility. By digitizing social security services, we remove the barriers of geography, long queues, and piles of paperwork. An electronic system ensures transparency and accountability. Every transaction, application, and update can be tracked in real time. It minimizes errors and builds trust between the government and the people it serves. In a time when public trust is more valuable than ever, transparency is a powerful tool. Most importantly, the e-social security system is a foundation for long-term sustainability. Digital records are easier to maintain, audit, and analyze. With better data, government can make smarter policy decisions, allocate resources more effectively, and predict future needs more accurately. This is how we create a system that doesn't just work today, but one that lasts for generations. Of course, challenges exist. Data privacy, digital literacy, and infrastructure must all be addressed. But these are challenges we can overcome with proper planning, education, and investment. The cost of inaction, however, is much higher: inefficiency, inequality, and lost opportunities. Implementing an e-social security system is not just about using new technology, it's about reaffirming our commitment to serve every citizen with dignity, speed, and fairness. Madam Speaker, across our communities, we face growing environmental challenges: polluted air, unsafe water, deforestation, plastic waste, noise pollution, and the effects of climate change. These are not just distant issues. They are happening right here, in our neighborhoods, our rivers, our streets. Environmental nuisances, whether it is overflowing garbage, polluted air, or constant industrial noise, are not just unpleasant. They are harmful. They damage our health, reduce our quality of life, and rob future generations from the clean, safe world they deserve. Combating environmental nuisances or larger climate threats takes collective effort. Industries must adopt cleaner, greener practices, but citizens also have the duty to change current habits by reducing waste, plant trees, conserve energy, and speak up when we see pollution going unchecked. Support all means education and awareness. When people know the impact of their actions, they make better choices. Let's teach sustainability in our schools, bring green practices into our businesses, and encourage community cleanup drives and recycling initiatives. Every plastic bottle we recycle, every tree we plant, every voice raised for change, it counts. These small acts build momentum, and momentum leads to lasting impact. This budget goes in that direction, and I personally welcome the deposit refund scheme for plastic bottles, which aim at reducing the number of plastic bottles being landed into the environment, but also encouraging a recycle culture. The environment doesn't need a few people doing everything perfectly. It needs all of us doing what we can consistently. I am happy that this budget recognizes the importance of addressing such issues and has made provision for an increase in the penalty rates to combat the environmental nuisances associated with excessive noise and black smoke emissions from motor vehicles that are not correctly maintained. Madam Speaker, we are living through a global turning point, one where the decisions we make about energy will shape our environment, our economies, and our communities for generations to come. And among the smartest, most strategic decisions we can make right now is to invest in renewable energy, particularly solar energy and biomass. Climate change is accelerating, and our dependence on fossil fuel is a major driver. Renewable energy will help us fight this crisis without sacrificing our lifestyle. The funding of projects in the renewable energy sector for the next 3 years, mainly in solar energy and biomass, is a turning point in the transition of shifting from fossil fuel to renewable energy. Madam Speaker, the world of work is changing faster than ever. Automation, artificial intelligence, and digital transformation are rewriting the rules of productivity and competition. In this new era, our most valuable asset is not just technology, it is people. And to stay competitive, we must invest in their skills. Upskilling our workforce is not a cost. It is the smartest investment we can make for a resilient economy. For every rupee we invest in workforce development, we gain in returns in innovation, productivity, and reduce unemployment. It is time to align our education systems with industry needs, expand access to technical training, and support lifelong learning. Let us future-proof our economy by empowering our people today. This government understood these challenges and will uphold its commitment to invest 550 million rupees for the training, reskilling, and upskilling of our labor force that will only be beneficial to our country. Madam Speaker, public enterprises play a crucial role in delivering essential services, transportation, utilities, finance, infrastructure, and more. They are meant to operate for public welfare. However, their potential remains underutilized or mismanaged, largely due to outdated systems, weak accountability, and limited innovation. Reforming public enterprises is not about dismantling them. It is about strengthening them. It is about creating institutions that are transparent, efficient, and responsive to the needs of the people. The goal is to transform these enterprises from bureaucratic machines into engines of sustainable development. Institutional reform begins with governance. We need clear, merit-based appointments to leadership positions, independent boards, and robust performance evaluation system and key performance indicators. Decision-making should be aligned with long-term strategic goals. We must also invest in capacity building. Reform is not just about cutting costs. It is about building systems, and that includes digital transformation, staff training, financial management, and data-driven decision-making. A modern public enterprise must function like a small business, with the heart of a public servant. Institutional reform is never easy. It requires political will, cultural change, and sustained commitment. We must be bold enough to confront inefficiency, brave enough to correct course, and wise enough to build systems that outlast any one administration. The 2025-2026 budget makes provision to increase the efficiency of public enterprise in order to make them financially sustainable, efficient, and accountable through a coordinated policy approach focused on strengthening governance and oversight. Madam Speaker, supporting employees through tax exemption is a strategic investment in our workforce. The people who keep our economies moving and our communities thriving. It tells workers, we see your effort, we value your contribution, and we are here to help you succeed. Moreover, financial support through tax relief can improve employee well-being and workplace morale. When workers feel financially stable, they are healthier, more focused, and more loyal to their employers. That's a win for businesses and for society. It is good to remember that the 2025-2026 budget, the new tax rates are as follows: 0% for all income earners up to 500,000 rupees, 10% for the next 500,000 rupees and remaining at 20%. Compared to the current tax rates introduced by the former government, where 2% was applicable for every income earner who earns 430,000 rupees, and an additional 4% was charged for the next 40,000 rupees. With these new rates, I know the Honorable Minister Otim outlined earlier, 81% of employees in our country will not pay any income tax. In line with our engagement towards the population, a promise of abolition of registration duty applicable to the sale transfer of pre-owned domestic vehicles is becoming a reality. Madam Speaker, despite the current status of our economy, you have to mention that this government guarantees a monthly income of 20,000 rupees for all full-time employees and the revenue minimum guarantee. Before I conclude, Madam Speaker, let me say a few words on the constituency number 4, Portly North and Montaignon. I again would like to seize that opportunity to thank the electors of this constituency for having massively voted for the candidate of l'Alliance du Changement under the 2024 general elections, and today we are proudly representing them in this parliament. A constituency that faces a lot of challenges, ranging from flood during heavy rain, whereby several severely affecting the residents of Vallée des Prêtres, Cité-la-Cure, and Moselle-Mont-la-Vallée, among others, while the regions of Batré-Cassé, Ouikéti, Richter, and Thiers-Rouge suffers of an acute water supply issue. Last but not least, the poor conditions of the streets at Cité-la-Cure, Batré-Cassé, Montaignon, following the water pipes replacement program under former government, where the state of the roads have not been reinstated. However, it is quite encouraging to see that under the 2025-2026 budget, there are several projects that have already been earmarked as detailed in the public sector investment program under the construction and upgrading of drainage infrastructure for Vallée des Prêtres, Moselle-Mont-la-Vallée, Moselle-Mont-Raffray, Thiers-Rouge, Cité-Roma, Valton, and Montaignon, which can only be benefic to the inhabitants of these regions. It makes no doubt that funds will also be available to upgrade the level of road infrastructure in the region I have mentioned above, including Boismorson. Madam Speaker, before concluding, I would like to thank the Honourable Minister of Youth and Sport, who has engaged, his ministry has engaged in a commending project of bringing sports on the streets, give that energy, that will, cette envie de refaire du sport under a project named À nous transformons l'endroit, À nous transformons l'endroit. The first edition took place in my constituency Sunday last at Carocaliptis. I must say that it was a real success. The only day of activity has reunited all MPs of the constituency, sportsmen, youngsters, Bishop of Port Louis. Thank you and well done, Honourable Minister, for this initiative, and I know it will be a success in the future. To conclude, Madam Speaker, we are at a crossroad in our national story. We can retreat into blame and hesitation, or we can rise with unity, discipline, and vision. This budget does not fix everything, but it begins to fix what matters most. It is a path from hardship to hope, from breakdown to breakthrough, from abyss to prosperity. Let us support it with courage and compassion. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Honourable Lobin, try and keep to the time because it's getting late.
Yes, Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me the floor. I will take that into consideration. All learned colleagues, learned friends, honourable members have taken the time of this House to debate, and I will not repeat what I've been saying because it is late and we're all tired, I know. And I would concur very much with what the Honourable Minister Utim have been saying. He has given detailed figures and facts as to in what type of a situation we are and what the population need to take into account before taking any decision or before having any other political vultures canvassing and giving false information to them. And this is the temple of democracy, where we need to disseminate those crucial factual information to the people of Mauritius. Because where we are, we have been left with a legacy of financial mismanagement, and we are now in an abyss of misrule. And I go directly into what all the population is talking about: reform of pension, Madam Speaker. And I'm very glad and thankful to the Honourable Prime Minister that he came with this very detailed, clear explanation as to what is the reform all about, why we need to proceed with the reform as it is. But of course, I'm thankful to the Honourable Prime Minister that has listened to the voice of the people of Mauritius. And I will quote at page 13 of his speech, so that we can disseminate that to the people of Mauritius. I quote, "In light of the devastating legacy left by the previous administration, we had no choice but to confront the urgent need for pension reform head-on. However, we remain deeply mindful of the challenges the most vulnerable may face under the proposed changes, and are committed to addressing their concerns with compassion and empathy." This is very important. The people of Mauritius appreciate this phrase, compassion and empathy, because as a democratic government, as the Honourable Prime Minister goes on to say, we have heard these concerns. So this is what democracy is all about. There is a proposal, we are debating on an appropriation bill, there are proposals, the people of Mauritius have made their voices heard, and the government and the Prime Minister have listened to the voices. And this is the consequence of those very pillar of democracy, that we have now those two committees set up by the Honourable Prime Minister that he will preside, and one by the Honourable Minister for Social Integration. So this is very commendable, and most of those reforms that we are talking about, this is what the people of Mauritius, they want to hear. That is compassion for the housewives, compassion for those who are in the lower middle class of the job sphere, manual workers, general workers, and these are all being addressed in those two committees, and I'm thankful to the Honourable Prime Minister for that. And there are various countries in the world, Madam Speaker, that have been having talks about reforms. Here in Mauritius, it was long overdue. The Honourable Prime Minister was talking about an expert, un actuaire. He said, la bombe du système de pension a déjà explosé. This is what the Honourable Prime Minister was referring to, Mr. Sator Jakaria. So the bomb, as Honourable Minister Boulel said, was ticking. But for the experts, la bombe du système de pension a déjà explosé. So we need to disseminate, we need to give to the people of Mauritius materials, factual information, what is happening. And this is the backdrop of the appropriation bill. This is the state of the economy. It has been a very comprehensive document that was presented before this August Assembly by the Honourable Prime Minister. Then, unfortunately, the leader of the opposition, he does not understand what those documents are all about. When we are in a temple of democracy, we are tabling the state of the economy. And this is being consolidated through the estimates of the budget that we have circulated to all members. Then it is almost unfair and misleading from politicians to go out and say all sorts of things that does not fall into the context of what the people of Mauritius are expecting. Truth, reality about the state of the economy. And with your permission, Madam Speaker, let me quote in the state of the economy one of the most biggest scandal, if I may say, for the past 10, 15, 20 years. The setting up of the Mauritius Investment Corporation Limited. People of Mauritius need to know why in 2020 the then government set up the Mauritius Investment Corporation Limited. It was meant to assist companies that needed support to ride out the COVID-19 crisis. And the Honorable Prime Minister answered to a question this morning as to the largesse that was given to Nandan Gopi. He was not affected by COVID. He was building his empire on public funds. So this is not a crisis company that has been affected by COVID. We are giving public money, taxpayers' money, to cronies of the previous government to do business. They don't take nothing from their pocket. They take it from the pocket of the people of Mauritius through this infamous Mauritius Investment Corporation Limited. And what the people of Mauritius need to know, they have been printing money, Madam Speaker. I quote, the printing of money by the Bank of Mauritius to fund the MIC was an irresponsible act which has had deleterious effects on the monetary system. This is very serious. These are criminal intents that have been now being inquired by the Financial Crimes Commission. And this, the population of Mauritius should know. And this is through dissemination of information, through the temple of democracy. People are listening, the press will report it, that they need to know what has happened. I would urge each and every Mauritian, we need to go through the state of the economy. All the figures are here. For example, Madam Speaker, if we look at the debt that has been increasing since 2014, when in 2014 government left, the Labour-led government left, the debt was 238 billion rupees, 238 milliards de rupees. We are now talking, everyone is talking about it, figures are proving it, it is now 642 milliards de rupees. So we are in a dire situation. We are in a dire situation. That is why I would qualify this budget as a patriotic budget, a budget that is taking all the required precautions not to squander the future of the people, the youth of this country. That is why this debate on pension should be dispassionate, but we should look at the people who are more vulnerable, what they need, the political assistance, the social assistance, and we need to communicate and tell them what government is doing through facts and figures, not listening to all political vultures that are doing harm to this country through all sorts of negative and false propaganda. So from this temple of democracy, we need to transmit it to the people of Mauritius. And Madam Speaker, with regard to this budget, we have been talking about Moody's, how in 2014 it was BAA1, now we are in BAA3 with a negative outlook. People should understand. Again, Honorable Minister Yutim vividly portrayed it with a delicate example as in a family, when you take loans, what will happen when you don't pay your loans. So people, again, should understand. We need, again, to use this platform, temple of democracy, to make the people understand. It is our duty as parliamentarians to go out and explain that to the people of Mauritius. And I know when we talk to the people of Mauritius, they will understand the gravity of the situation as today portrayed by the Honorable Prime Minister in his deliberate speech with regards to pension reforms. In this budget also, Madam Speaker, we are talking about creating wealth. From abyss to prosperity, we need to create wealth. And on that score, again, I would congratulate government to at least having taken care of our port sector. Through years, in the previous mandate, myself, Honorable Yutim, Honorable Minister Boulel, we have been asking the previous government. There was a port master plan in 2021. Why you are not developing the port? Why is it so that we have left our port in such a dismay? And people, the international community, have been puzzled when they came to know that we were ranked by the World Bank report, Madam Speaker, as one of the least efficient ports in the region. We were ranked 369th globally. We were behind the port of Tuamasina in Madagascar. We were behind Mayotte. We were behind the port of Réunion. So this is not something that is very encouraging when we as parliamentarians in the previous mandate was asking the government to go ahead with this post-master plan, because this is a new pillar of the economy. Unfortunately, they didn't do so, and I'm very pleased that there is an allocation in the budget for 4.4 billion rupees towards port infrastructure that will construct the bunker board jetty, the container terminal extension, and the digitalization of logistics. These are very commendable steps forward to create this pillar of the economy. And if I may say so, Madam Speaker, Honorable Minister Boulel talked about it. We are an ocean state. We've got large territorial waters, and we've got around 22,000 big vessels that pass through our territorial waters every year, Madam Speaker. And we've got only 1,000 vessels that will stop at Mauritius for bunkering purposes. And this is something that is alarming. When we take, for example, Panama. Panama, Madam Speaker, they run their economy with their port. They attract big vessels. They've constructed the Panama Canal, whereby these run their economy. Even President Trump is a little bit jealous of the success of Panama with regards to attracting all these big vessels. And if we manage in the years to come to attract at least 5,000 to 6,000 vessels at our port, this will be a major breakthrough to develop this very, very important economic pillar for our society, Madam Speaker. And this is not something new. Way back in our history, we were called, we are still called in our coat of arms, we are the star and key of the Indian Ocean. So let us be the star and key of the Indian Ocean. And with those investment, massive investment being made in the port, I'm sure that we shall shine at the star and key of the Indian Ocean. So again, I thank the government for placing so much resources for the Cargo Handling Corporation and for the Mauritius Ports Authority. With regard to the reform of the judiciary, Madam Speaker, again, when we took government, it was a question about saving the democracy. We've got the Labour Party, the MMM, and Resistance. They were born to fight, to preserve the rights of workers. We, in Nouveau Démocrate, we were born to save our democracy. And we joined hands with the MMM, with the Labour Party and Resistance to save our democracy. And to save our democracy, we've got the duty now to continue to make our democracy workable. We need a participative democracy. And I'm very happy to note that we are moving ahead at page 53 of the budget speech, that we are setting up the Constitutional Review Commission. It is very important after 57 years that we have a look at our Constitution, and it is in our political mandate to have a look at electoral reforms and also at major issues that we need to amend in our Constitution. Again, Madam Speaker, I welcome the creation of the National Prosecution Service. We know very well what happened to the DPP's office, and I also I'm very thankful now that we have come to an end to a case that was lodged way back in 2015, whereby the DPP's office was suing the Attorney General's office, and it went on for years. And fortunately, now this is not the case, and this is good for the working of our penal system, that we have an independent DPP's office, and the creation of this National Prosecution Service headed by the DPP and modelled on the UK system is something that is a very good move ahead for our country again. This goes in the spirit of transparency, and with regards to expansion of e-judiciary again, Madam Speaker, this is also a very commendable effort from government to invest so that our judiciary, we've got modern equipments, and we move forwards so that cases are not delayed, and this will lay the foundation for this investment court that we need to bring so that all the foreign investments that will be coming to this country, they will feel safe, secure, that we've got the required mechanism and jurisdiction to have a fast and speedy justice for them, especially with regard to mediation. And again, mediation, it was brought by arbitration and mediation, brought by the Honorable Prime Minister again. And since 2014, no consideration at all has been given to promotion of arbitration and mediation in this country. And you've got so much investments that could have come to Mauritius, but we do not have the required platform to treat them and give them the facilities to have arbitration and mediation in Mauritius. We've seen what has happened to Betamax. They had to move to Singapore, and we all know the cost of those arbitration. So we, through these innovations, artificial intelligence, and budgetary provisions, we will be moving with regards to a modern jurisdiction in terms of arbitration and mediation. With regard to the pension, Madam Speaker, I am sure that we parliamentarians, we will be able to participate and give our views in those committees, and I'm sure several recommendations will be taken into consideration because there are countries that have got that dual system. Brazil, for example, they've passed on the age for the male 65 and for female 62. And they've got a scheme of contributory pension. So those who can contribute, they can contribute, and those who cannot, the state will chip in. So there are various possibilities, various schemes that could be devised that goes along with this reform of pension that was long overdue. So, Madam Speaker, I won't take much of the time. I just thank the government for this very first appropriation bill. I fully support those reforms, and I fully support the implementation of those measures taken for various ministries. But I would only, again, refer the House to what has been said in the State of the Economy at page 35. We've got administrative and bureaucratic constraints. This was with the previous government. We still have administrative and bureaucratic constraints. We need to look at bureaucracy and inefficiencies in licensing processes that are pervasive. We need to improve the system, and I'm sure if we remove all those red tapeism and bureaucratic issues, I'm sure that in the next 2-3 years, this will be a workable appropriation bill that will create prosperity for the country, will take us from abyss to prosperity. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you. Honourable Pentia.
Madam Speaker, listening to Honourable Lubin, it seems that we're just starting our session today. But alas, Madam Speaker, I beg to move for adjournment of the debates.
Okay. Everybody was waiting for you to speak. Now, the question is that the debate be now adjourned. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The House is adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move for the adjournment of the House to tomorrow, Wednesday, the 18th, at 11:30 a.m.
Sorry. It's like everybody knew. I'm sorry. It's getting so cold. The question is now that the House be adjourned to Wednesday, tomorrow, at 11:30 a.m. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The House stands adjourned.